What's the situation in Flint like right now? Is it any better?
Right, so it seems like the water is getting better. We switched back to Detroit in mid-October. However, the 18 months of the corrosive, untreated water significantly damaged the infrastructure. So that is in the process of healing. The water is not safe yet, so people are still being encouraged to use filters as much as possible. But it seems like the water itself is getting better. But the people have a long way to go in terms of their healing.
When this whole thing started to unravel, tell us what you personally went through. You knew that the situation is getting alarming back in April, right? I mean, it was, what, 6 months before the country knew about this?
Right, so actually back in September 2015.
Okay, so what was on your mind? I mean, you know that you have a tragedy on your hands. Nobody wants to do anything about it. So what were the emotions like?
So it was heartbreaking. So we, as a nation, have done a great job getting rid of lead. So we got rid of lead from paint and from gas, and for the last 30 years, the percentage of children with lead poisoning has gone down and down and down in our nation, in our state, and in our city. And this was a situation where we bucked every trend. So here we are doing such a good job getting rid of lead, and now we've potentially expose an entire population to this neurotoxin. And at the same time, as a nation, we've also learned a lot more about lead. We now know that there is no safe level of lead and that it should never be in the body of children because it's lifelong consequences. So to hear that there was lead in the water was alarming, and that's kind of what spurred us as pediatricians to act to see if that lead in the water was getting into the bodies of children. And then when we did our research and when we found our results that, wow, there is a significant increase in the kids with lead poisoning, you know, we had to share that information. We actually shared our research results at a press conference at the end of September, which is not how you share medical research. But we had this ethical, professional responsibility to share this information. And then we were denied. So when we did go public with this information, it continued the trend of attack, deny that the state had been doing for almost 2 years. Because we weren't the first to sound this alarm. The moms, the activists, the pastors, the water experts, everybody had been raising concerns. And so when we raised our concerns as well, you know, we weren't believed.
When you had the scientific proof on paper, the research that lead affects children and other human beings as well, and you were denied, as you say, by the state, did you feel like you were some sort of Don Quixote fighting against the windmills in this case?
So when the state tells you you're wrong, that you're an unfortunate researcher, that you're causing near hysteria, it's hard not to become physically ill. So, you know, and you begin to second guess yourself. You know, maybe I am wrong. How can I, you know, be, you know, the state with a team of 50 epidemiologists, they probably know, they have this data, they probably know. But that happened for a good maybe 2 hours. And then we regrouped because the numbers didn't lie. Everything was consistent. So we fought back.
Dr. Mona, the damage has already been done to the children and residents of Flint. Do you think it can be somehow rectified?
Yeah, absolutely. So, you know, lead is unfortunately an irreversible neurotoxin. You can't take it away, you can't reverse it, but you can limit its impact. So we can do many things to promote children's development, and that's what we're trying to do. We're trying to flip this story. So Michigan State University, Hurley Children's Hospital, we've created something called this Pediatric Public Health Initiative. We want to be this model public health program, a center of excellence, where we throw every single resource at these kids so we don't see these consequences. We're going to be researching them, and when we study them in 20-ish years, we hope to see nothing. But that can only happen by intervening now.
What kind of advice would you give to your colleagues and the state authorities in other parts of the country? Because Flint is apparently not the only place with lead in water, and the levels in Louisiana are high as well.
Yeah. So the great thing there's a lot of great things that have happened because of the Flint situation. I think it's increased the national recognition of lead in water, of lead generally, and the need to do increased monitoring. So I would tell everybody in the world that we need to strengthen the lead and copper rule. This is an EPA rule, part of the Safe Drinking Water Act, that's currently under revision. This rule, the lead and copper rule, was at the crux of all this, so that needs to be strengthened. We need more transparency. We need to know, what our lead levels are in people's homes. Just like when we buy or rent a house, we have to sign a lead paint disclosure. We should know if we have lead plumbing, so that everybody can take precautions. And especially when there's vulnerable populations like pregnant women and small children, especially on formula. The great thing about this story is that it has increased recognition around the world of the danger and kind of prevalence of lead plumbing. And the need to take precautions. And hopefully we now have a more educated public. Hopefully now the public knows to always flush their cold water and to never use hot tap water for cooking, and to get their water checked. So there's things that every citizen can do because of the situation.
Do you think your work and that of Professor Edwards can serve as an inspiration to people across the nation who also have lead and water problems?
I hope so. My real job is as a director of a residency program. So my real job is to train medical students and residents to be great physicians. And it is our job as physicians, especially as pediatricians, to be the voice in our community, to be advocates, to protect our children and our communities. So I hope it inspires the next generation of especially physicians and young scientists who want to do good for their communities. And that's why we went into this field. That's why many people go into medicine, is because they want to help people. And often throughout our training and throughout our practice, we get jaded. We get consumed by our daily clinical work, and we forget that we're a powerful voice in our communities. So I'm hopeful that it inspires others to do similar work.
What did you feel when you were fighting against the state and the state kept rebutting your claims, your science, your proof? Did that make you feel tired?
Absolutely not. So like I said, our numbers didn't lie, and it is our job. This is my job. This is my job as a pediatrician to protect these kids. And if we had an inkling of concern, we raise our voice, and that's what we did. And we weren't going to stop fighting as long as we knew there was a concern. So it made me stronger.
How hard it is to fight these battles? How hard it is to fight the system as you've been doing for some time now?
It's challenging, but it's the right thing to do. So it doesn't matter if it's hard, if it's the right thing to do. When your job is to protect children and to protect public health, that's what you do. It doesn't matter how difficult it is.
And what does it feel like when you know that you have prevailed, that you've won, your voice has been heard, and the attention has now focused on the children? What does it feel like?
It feels great, but it's also sad because this situation never should have happened. It's sad because it's true. We did have a population-wide, preventable lead exposure.
What was the point in time when it could have been prevented?
The water switch in the first place, the addition of corrosion control, which was never added. So this never should have happened. And it could have been prevented in many different steps. There was many missed opportunities. October 2014, General Motors stopped using this water because it was corroding their engine parts. This was almost a year prior to our research coming out. So there was many, many missed opportunities in the story that it did not have to go on this long.
Mm-hmm. And you think that was it something like criminal negligence on behalf of the state, not to check the water before going to switch to?
I don't know. So there's lots of investigations, and there's people whose job now is to figure out what happened, when people knew, what did they know. But that's not my job. So my job as a doctor, my job is to take care of these kids. That's what my focus is.